Hello everyone, welcome to DevBytes. Today we are going to talk about generics and type erasures in Java language. What is generics? Let's not try to generalize this with other language. Generics is something very unique to Java programming language. It was introduced as part of Java 5 version. While we are interested to learn what is the real use of generics, we also should know what is a type eraser and how is it related to generics. Come on, let's get into the topic. Okay, what is generics? Generics is a language feature in Java which was introduced in JDK 5. And why is it being used? It helps the developers to write a type safe code along with the reusability. And how does generic achieve that? This generics allow the classes, interfaces, and methods to operate on various type objects while providing compile time checking. So type errors are caught during compilation rather at runtime, which helps the developers to have a more robust and reliable code. Now let's do a revisit on data types. Java has categorically two different data types. One is primitive, which we all know, byte, short, integer, long, float, double. Similarly, there are reference data types which are non-primitive. Cases like string, classes like arrays, generally any classes, user-defined classes, and interfaces. All these are the reference data types. Now, let's think what is the real problem without generics first. So, prior to Java 5, developers had a severe challenge while they're handling the data types that are stored in collections object. Collections objects such as hash map, list or array list, and then the set or sorted set. Whenever there is a data being stored in that and they wanted to operate on the data, when they retrieve the data can be in any different data types. So they have to check through instances of before doing any further operations. Otherwise, it will result in class cast exception. Let's take a detailed look through a small program, which will help us to understand more detail about this. Clear with the context why we are using generics in the code. Here is a very simple example which will demonstrate the use of or the importance of generics in our code. This example has two Java classes, one implemented using legacy prior to JDK 5, the other one using generics, which is from JDK 5 onwards. In both these examples, we are using a hash map to store a list of objects or a referential instances, which could be a wrapper class or a string based class, or it could be a Boolean object, and then we are trying to retrieve it and print it. So this first one being the legacy hash map example, we are storing key 1, key 2, key 3, and value is actually a first one is string, second one is a wrapper integer, third one is a Boolean. And if you look at closely, pay attention to this line 18 to 25, you'll be able to see only if you know that whatever type of object you stored against those key, you will be able to do the typecast. First being the string, second being the integer wrapper, third being the Boolean wrapper, and then you can print it. Suppose if you're going to use an iterator, okay, through entry set and then iterator, well, looping through the iterator, obviously you need to get the key and value. So the key and value will be an object, rather a specific instance. And when you try to print as an object, there won't be an issue. But when you're trying to map this as a string, probably for the key 2, which we don't know what type of it is. Either we will introduce an instance of operator and then try to check with all the data types whether it is a user defined data type or it is a predefined data type. That would pose more challenges for a developer, right? So it would result in a class cast exception if you are not able to figure it out through the instance of. And that is probably the worst way of writing a code, implementing instance of against multiple data types, not knowing what kind of a data, especially when the data set is coming from a database or through some other network API calls. So then how do we circumvent this issue? And that's where the generics come into rescue. In this example, obviously it lets a developer to define a map, which is basically a hash map, and what is the type, what is the key type, and what is the value. This is after JDK 5, after the generics comes into existence. By doing this declaration, you will know, and even during compilation of the program, the developer enforces this is the data type and for both key and both the values as well. And so you will not be able to add anything, and so compilation will not fail. And then we will be able to get the value which we know this is of a type integer as a value, and that gets printed. Even if you're going to use the same way like how we did earlier through the iteration for the entry set, we'll be able to get the key and value directly and map it to the corresponding variables with the different data types, and you can put, there won't be any class cast exception or anything of that sort. This is a very basic demonstration of a generics, and you can use it against all different data structures of the collections such as hash map or any other concurrent hash map, list, set, or any sort of that. You can use it without any issues. So I hope this will help you to understand why we need a generics as a basic mechanism to write a reliable piece of code. Now let's talk about type erasure. Type erasure is something goes along with generics. So when a code has been written using generics, what happens as part of compilation? Compilation happens at the code level using a Java compiler, and that ensure the generics values are converted into a normal type. When I say normal type, it erases the type which you are specifically giving in the generics. And why does it do? It helps to have a backward compatibility at runtime with all the previous JVMs. And there won't be any runtime overhead as well. And these are some of the key benefits of using a type eraser. Type eraser happens during the compilation itself into the bytecode, and it won't be exclusively added into the code by the developer. And another example how it just happens. If you look at this piece of code where we have a count as a method which basically counts the number of occurrence of an element in an array, where we are passing a generic array of type T and then an element called a T. Internally we are looping through and then checking the count for that type T. Since in this case T is not fully bounded, it can be anything, not even a class, right? T is a keyword. So Java compiler basically it replaces with object. Object is a superclass of all the objects in Java class, right? Java programming language. Hence it uses object as a replacement for T. So if a code internally have something called shape and a circle which extends the shape, rectangle which extends the shape, you can write a generic method to draw different shapes. T extends the shape, and then void draw, and then T shape. All these replaces the T with appropriately with this shape. That's it. which is a more of a generic code, and that get replaced during type erasure for smoother execution and robust piece of code. Right. Thank you so much for connecting with you today. Hope this helps you to have some more clarity regarding generics for your coding. Thank you.